Welcome back to the Sifra channel. Today we'll be making a classic Yemeni cake typically served in Ramadan, and it's called Yemeni Rawani. Rawani is an egg-based cake. It is incredibly fluffy and spongy, as you can see here, and it is doused in a simple syrup called Sheera. Very simple to make, and I'll demonstrate all of those steps here. So let's get going, and before we do that, please don't forget to subscribe. So we're going to start by making our sheera with just sugar and water and some whole spices. My favorites are cinnamon, cloves, and cardamom. If you don't have either one of these, it's not a big deal. Once it starts to simmer, I'm adding a little bit of lemon juice and giving that a mix. You really want that sugar to dissolve over medium-low heat. Don't go too crazy. And we want to boil that about 5 to 10 minutes until the mixture kind of reduces about 25%. Then we just want to set it aside and let it cool. So the ingredients listed below is for a smaller Rawani cake that would fit into a 9-inch round. You can double this recipe to use a rectangular 9x13 or 9x11 pan. So the first thing you want to do is take your room temperature eggs and separate them. Now once your egg whites have been separated, I'm going to use a little bit of cream of tartar. Now this is not a traditional ingredient, and I'm just using a little pinch. This is typically used for things like macaroons and anything that has a meringue where you really want those egg whites to fluff up nicely. So it's not required, but if you have it on hand, why not? And the easiest way to do this is with an electric mixer. You really want to look for those beautiful stiff peaks. And if you're doing this by hand, good luck. Now, if you're not sure what peaks look like by the time it's nice and white, the way you can test it is just pull those mixers straight up. And then if your egg whites are stiff, just like you can see here, then you know it's ready. You don't want to overmix. Now that we've reached the stage, we're going to start adding our egg yolks, one at a time, but on low speed. You don't want to whip this too much, or then you would deflate your egg whites. So go ahead and do that one at a time. So after you've finished lahwatting all of your egg yolks, I'm adding a little bit of vanilla extract. If you don't have extract, use some vanilla paste or powder, it all works. So for our next stage in preparing our dry ingredients, just some all-purpose flour, baking powder, and a little bit of salt. I'm gonna mix these together first before I sift them into the egg mixture a little bit at a time. And you want to use a plastic spatula, a rubber spatula like this, to gently fold the mixture kind of like from the bottom and scoop it around your bowl. You don't want to overmix because again you would deflate the batter, which we don't want to do because we want to make sure that our rawani are nice and fluffy. So just until the flour nicely incorporates. Now once we've reached this stage, we want to prep our pan. You absolutely don't want to skip this step. Make sure you spray it down so your cake doesn't stick, and then transfer every little bit of that batter right into the pan. And what we want to do here is just gently tap it on the table surface and give it a little wiggle so that it evens out, but you don't want to do that too much so it doesn't deflate. So now that that's ready, we're going to pop it in a preheated oven at 415 degrees Fahrenheit convection bake. And that only took about 10 to 15 minutes. You really want to look for that slightly darker yellow color, but it does not need to brown. And at this point, when it's still hot, we're going to add our Sheera, which is our simple sugar syrup. And notice here that I'm going to be pretty generous. This cake will soak up a lot of it, kind of similar to a basbousa. And it'll come back down to room temperature, which is typically the state in which it is served. Now you can refrigerate this overnight and serve it the next day, but tomorrow you'll also want to add some additional sugar syrup because the cake will have soaked up all of it. And that's it. It's a super simple, easy recipe. Doesn't take much to make. You will have a lot of sheera left over, but that's completely fine because you can use it for other recipes as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe and comment below if you have any questions.